youtube.com/MayhewMayhem. That's youtube.com/MayhewMayhem.
Hello and welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes of Mayhem. I am your host, my name is Michael Mayhew, and I am here with my co-hosts.
What's up, everybody? It's me, Greg, and we are joined by everybody's favorite pedophile,
Nick from youtube.com/TicTacMan, and joining us is one of the Navy's affirmative action hires. Well, I guess they all are if we count gay as affirmative action.
Hello, it's Dale.
Wait, what the fuck? Where's James at? That piece of shit. No, James couldn't be on this episode. And it's a special episode. If you didn't hear that the affirmative action's biggest leader, I guess, according to Nick, Dale is back on. You haven't heard him since episode 50, and if you haven't heard anything before episode 51, then you have no idea who he is, which is okay. So you should go back and listen to the old episodes. So let's kick it a little old school. We got all the original crew, minus Ryan, but, you know, he couldn't take the time to be on here because, well, I don't know why.
The Gat Cat is living it up in L.A.
He's actually back in Florida.
Well, he's still living it up. He's the Gat
He's
Cat.
he's in the Ocala.
The Ocala. Yes, he's living it up in the Ocala.
Remember, 30 Minutes of Mayhem is available on YouTube, iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spreaker. All you have to do is search MayhewMayhem, that's MayhewMayhem, and make sure to rate us 5 stars.
Also, you can help us afford to continue doing the show by donating to 30 Minutes of Mayhem via PayPal. Just use email address in the description, 30minutesofmayhem@gmail.com.
And as I said, welcome to 30 Minutes of Mayhem, the podcast your mother can be ashamed of. And tell me, Greg, why is this the podcast your mother can be ashamed of?
We are the podcast your mother can be ashamed of because, I mean, seriously, look at us. We're a bunch of filthy fucking degenerates. I mean, God, people we hang out with and we invite on this show. I mean, what the fuck's wrong with us?
That is exactly correct. And before we get into this special 75th episode with all the original members minus Ryan because he's living it up in the Ocala, let me cover, I guess you could call it really a question, but it's not really something I'm personally ashamed of. But let's poll the audience. And by the audience, I mean everyone that is here on this episode, not the listeners. Although you guys can let us know what you think as well. Say your significant other, whether male or female, is pleasuring you, whether it's oral or manual stimulation. It could actually be fornication, whether vaginal or anal. And you've concluded
Manuel?
that... Yes.
Manual stimulation, because she has Emmanuel do it for me all the time. He's my favorite gardener.
Okay, so even if it's Emmanuel in your life, if you've concluded that you're going to blow your load on her or his face, do you let your significant other do the finishing touches, meaning getting you there and they get you to that point and you blow on their face, or when you're about to get there, do you take over and do the finishing touches so that you can better control its trajectory and whatnot? Me personally, I'm gonna say that I like both, but I prefer to control the trajectory, but not every single time, because I like a little bit of change. But I like to be able to control the trajectory because from my experience of the female controlling the trajectory, she ends up getting some of it on me because it'll get on her hand, and then when she strokes downwards, it gets on my dick. And it's been notorious through the show that I've said, once it comes out of me, I want no part of it. I don't want it on me. So that I don't like. So I prefer to control the trajectory myself.
Depending on what the situation is, normally if she's on me doing it, I don't do facials. I bust in the mouth every time. So in that situation, and I just let her do it. But if I'm standing up and she's down on her knees, oh yeah, I take fucking control, because that's my time to be dominant right there.
Well, I will actually have to agree with Nick on this one. There was most of the time, actually pretty much, yeah, I would have to say 90% of the time I'd take control and feel that domination. And I don't know, I feel better when I do it myself. Not saying that she necessarily does a crappy job, but to pretty much feel better, I guess, have that better emotion and just that
feeling of dominance, that power.
Exactly. then I want to do it. I want to take control. I haven't really had a woman that like she actually likes the facials, but when she's like everywhere, I'm just like you got it. So and she'll just lay there and let me do it. I'm like yes.
So, Greg, when you're jerking off, have you ever just like stopped when you get like right there, but your body's already gone too far, and you kind of what they call ruin it by just letting it shoot everywhere, and you're not actually touching it, or do you just what did Jeff Young say? Frost the belly, or how's that?
I make sure that I control that shit. I can't let it just go everywhere because then it's a pain in the ass to clean up. I mean, it's like, goddamn, I don't want to have to like. The more it gets everywhere, the longer it'll take for me to clean up, and the bigger a chance there'll be of somebody walking into my room while I'm trying to clean up and seeing it, and just like, I mean, especially if it's my parents, then it'd just be the most fucking awkward thing in my life ever.
Now, have you ever just got right there to the point and then just like took your hand off and just let it go on its own just to see how it'll happen?
Once. And like I said, that didn't end well.
Have you ever accidentally shot yourself in the face?
Luckily, no, I have not.
Well, maybe you should like lay down on your back and kind of like kick your hips or lower body up to where you're like on your bed, to where your ass is like on your bed, but your shoulders and stuff's on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could just jerk onto your own face, or whatever you want to do.
Why would I want to do that?
I don't know. I just figure you might be into some weird shit.
Well,
hey, don't knock it until you try it.
Yeah, don't knock it until you've tried it, man. Like, you got to give it a go, and then, let us know.
Okay.
All right. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason this is the podcast your mother can be ashamed of. Let's keep on the subject of jerking off, because that is pretty much at this point all this podcast has become about. Is jerking off, because that's pretty much all any of us do. Well, except for the exception of Nick, which
I refuse to touch it myself. That's why I kidnap children.
Let's talk about pornography. Yes, porn. Let's take it way, way back. Think way, way back. What was your first ever experience with pornography, and how did it go? How did it go for you? Was it awkward? Was it awesome? How did it go?
It was awesome until I got caught. I've already told the story about like my dad walking in on me, but that wasn't the first time I got caught. It was when Dish Network first came out, and I don't know how old I was.
Time ago.
Yeah, I know, but it was like I learned how to work it because I had it at my house, and we had family over at my house. I had a couple of friends with me. I don't remember who. I know we went up to my aunt's house because she had it as well. And we didn't go in her living room. She had it in her bedroom. So I just turned on the TV and started going through Dish. And like next thing you know, we found these the ones that you have to pay, like 14, like $15 for an hour or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, screw it, let's do it. So we just turned it on, and I remember laughing hysterically for some reason every time something was going on. I don't remember exactly what was going on. Next thing you know, my dad as well just bust through the door and just dragged all of us out. I don't know if he saw what we were watching, because I remember laying down in my room because I was in trouble, and then I remember my aunt called. We were the type of people that always ring twice and then go to voicemail, and they were just the answer machine, pick it up, and we just listen who it is. And if we know who it was, we, picked it up. We didn't have a caller ID or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I can hear her like yelling in the voicemail, you know what he was watching? Oh my God, it was bad. I didn't really get in trouble. That's not really when I got in trouble. Like, I mean, like I was, got a stern talking to, but then that second time I just got yard work done.
My first experience with it was there was this neighbor kid that lived like a road or so over, and I want to say it was his stepdad, just had this massive collection of Playboys. When I say a massive collection, I'm talking like this dude must have been subscribed and got these fucking issues like every month, because he just had like boxes and boxes and boxes of them. And my friend, he used to always talk about him, and I'm like, well, what's the big deal? I never really believed him about all this shit. It was like this gold mine, if you will, of this shit. When his parents would leave, we would, search for him. And we never found them, so I always thought he was lying. Until one day, we found some in the bathroom underneath of the bathroom sink. there was some magazines there, and there was some issues of Playboy. And I was like, holy shit, he's not lying. There's like half a dozen or so issues here. And later, we found this collection that he had said that existed. They had a garage, I guess. They were in totes, and they were just I mean, I'm talking probably over 300 issues. Just a massive amount. So what we decided to do, because as you know, kids do, we were going to build this clubhouse up in this tree, a tree house, whatever you want to call it. So we started slowly building this tree house, and we decided that the best thing we could do for this tree house, once we got it built, which we did, roof and all, is we were going to slowly take a few issues at a time of his Playboys and take them and stash them in this treehouse. So that's what we did. But I just remember being like, he's gonna catch us. We're gonna get caught. This motherfucker had like 300 plus fucking issues. He would have never fucking known unless he had them like cataloged by date, and every once in a while went and just was like, my collection is so perfect, and like rolled around on them or something. Like, he would have never noticed, and I don't know if he ever did notice, but unfortunately I never got to jerk off to any of these Playboys.
Sad.
Oh, it's a shame.
I'm trying to remember.
He's like, I flooded my life with so much pornography. I have no idea what my first experience was.
I don't even know when it started.
He's like, I have watched so much hardcore shit that I couldn't even begin to tell you. I can't even get off anymore unless there's like 3 dicks in one chick's asshole. Like, I'm into such hardcore shit that I just cannot even fucking get erected without that taking place. It's got to be straight bukkake gangbang to the point to where it just makes you gag because there's so much fucking semen all over one chick's face that she's literally choking on it and fucking gagging, and it looks like really weird fucking milk, and you're like, oh my god.
And then she starts vomiting it up, and then the guys make her lick all that and back up.
Oh god. That shit is gross, Greg. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, Greg, that's really fucked up. Does your dad know you watch that kind of stuff? I should tell him.
Does the church know you watch that kind of stuff?
We're gonna see Greg on an episode of Intervention on A&E.
I'm sure he watches it with the priest all the time.
Oh,
I know his.
No, you know what?
I know his priest chills with me all the time.
Ooh.
To be honest, Nick, he probably doesn't chill with the priest anymore because Greg's too old for that.
Nick and the priest are best friends. They tag team.
Sends me pictures of Marks, and I'm like, you'll have him by sundown.
How much money do you make from snatching kids from for the church, I should say?
Well, Mike,
or is that unreported income, so you shouldn't talk about it?
To be quite honest, like I need my current job to cover up for how much money I'm actually making because of that. Yeah, it's.
Oh, so your current job is kind of a front for how much money you actually make via the church paying you to snatch children for them.
Yes.
And by church, I mean Catholicism.
In general. Catholicism in general.
Greg, what were you saying about the hardcore bukkake porn, 3 dicks and 1 ass?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
That's all he thinks about.
How I first got into
the hardcore ass shit that you're into. I think it's like one of those things to where like you start out with like a Playboy or something kind of like a softcore Skinamax type of thing, and then next thing you know, you're looking at yourself years later and you're watching some chick get 3 dicks in her ass, and you're like, where did I go wrong?
Well, it's funny.
What the fuck happened to me? What? And then you go out into society, and those people don't know what you watch, and you're just like, only if they knew how much of a fucking goddamn vulgarious piece of shit that I am in my home life. But yeah.
Well, it's funny because like before I even like discovered porn frequently, like I was Columbus. It was pretty much as soon as I hit puberty, I became like a horny fuck. So like, I mean, like most people who hit puberty do, but I didn't really know where to get porn from. So like, I was literally just getting erections at literally anything that showed like even a little bit of cleavage. So I think though the first time I ever saw porn, like full-blown nudity and sex, and that was back in the fall of 2003.
This motherfucker knows the date and everything. He marked it down in his fucking calendar.
Damn.
It was because I was
It was a life-changing event.
Yeah, it was a life-changing event because there was this old website I used to visit called Newgrounds, where like people would post flash cartoons, games, and shit like that. And they had a bunch of hentai games on there. And I don't remember how exactly it came to it, but I ended up clicking on one and playing it, and I was like, oh, I think I kind of like this. And then
This
of
is
course,
how relationships work.
and then I was like, okay, now
So I
guess
should look
I'll
like an
check out.
octopus, and I should put one of my tentacles in each one of her
So
holes.
so then I was like, well, let's see what real life porn is like too. And so I like found some. This is history.
Do you think that's why you're so pro bestiality? Because your first experience was with hentai and there was octopus involved and he was tentacling the shit out of each one of her holes, and you're like, I want to do that one day, but then you realize you don't have tentacles, so you'd rather just watch it happen to some actual chick?
No, I never. That was not okay. Let me clarify. There were no octopi involved in that video. There were, however, a lot of cat girls. So I mean, that's probably where that fetish came from.
God
But I digress.
damn, and I can already tell him which one it was.
See, Nick knows what I'm talking about.
What was,
But that's
that,
because
what was the
just
title of that? Like something like
yeah.
summer allergies or some shit like that. And
The
Now
racist-
it's 2015. It's 12 years later, and I'm just like, I got all that shit on lockdown. I got all this stuff at my fingertips.
I just legit want to see somewhere where it's just a page and it has Greg's face, like Greg Holmes, the Christopher Columbus of porn.
When I first discovered it back in March of
Of 2003.
of 2003, when I first discovered pornography.
Please create a porn website blog about you finding these new ones.
It would go on for pages if I talked about the stuff I found recently.
Do it.
Like, even within the last
you would get a lot of
week.
hits. My first experience, I had to have been like 3 or 4, and my father was like, like they kept my crib out in the living room, and I swear to God, like my father was watching something on it before that. It was like HBO, and then he passed out and was dead cold asleep, and so I just fucking just watched that. And the only reason at like 3 in the morning, because my mom worked the later night shift at the restaurant she worked at, she comes busting in and sees me fucking watching that shit and starts losing her shit on my father because it's his fault. Right after that happened, I had a tendency of humping a lot of things.
And it's all been history from there.
Yep.
Yes.
Do you feel like because it's such an early age when that became ingrained in your brain, do you feel like that's why you target that specific audience now, because you're trying to make them relive your memories?
Yes, I want them all to grow up and be as perfect as me.
And now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Ryan from the headlines. With special guest reporter Dale.
Live on the scene here in the upcoming story that is in development right now that we're all getting.
You're such a fucking bad reporter.
Yeah, I know. 2 high school teachers are facing accusations that they invited a 16-year-old student to an apartment last month for a 3-way sexual encounter. The 2 teachers are aged 24 and 32, were booked on one account each of carnal knowledge of a juvenile, indecent behavior with a juvenile, contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile.
Now, who the fuck rats out that situation? I'm sorry, but I can think of 2 teachers, and we've talked about fornication with teachers before back on episode 48. Now, I'm just saying, I can think of 2 teachers through my time that I would be willing to bang, and if I could have both of them in a threesome, I would never rat out that situation. I'm never like, oh my god.
And I think I know which teachers you were talking about.
Well, the only 2 hot teachers that we had in our school, so it wouldn't be hard to figure out. Now, unless what happened was the student was bragging about the fact that he fucked 2 of the teachers, and
In which case he's a dumbass.
correct. But you got to think, if you're that age, and you can't help but brag about that situation. Somebody's like, oh yeah, well, my girlfriend sucked my dick, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I fucked Miss So-and-so and Miss So-and-so at the same fucking time. And they're like, no, you didn't. And then there's evidence, and then those teachers end up getting fired. So it's kind of a one-up type situation, but that's the only way I can see like it being leaked out. I wouldn't fucking tell anybody.
Maybe
You wanna guess on how it got leaked out?
How did it get leaked out?
He bragged.
He bragged for real? Is that how it got
Yep,
leaked
it
out?
says alleged victim reportedly bragged to the other students that he was having sex with teachers, and the teachers, who are friends, said that the encounter was consensual.
What do you, I mean, like, what's the conversation like in the fucking break room for those teachers? You know what I mean? Yeah, I think tonight when we hook up, like, I'll eat your puss while you suck his dick. Like, what the fuck? How does that conversation go with those two teachers? Like,
Just a fucking lonely gym teacher over there, like, man, I wish I was a student.
Dude, this is pretty bad. They said that they may have video or photographs of the encounter.
now the kid
Greg's gonna try to look this up.
now the kid was only 16, right?
Yeah.
So those won't be on the internet. Very, very unfortunate that he wasn't at least 18, a senior and 18 years old, and then I'd be like, leak them bitches. The one teacher in question here is actually not too bad looking. The other one,
Okay, first off,
He was homeschooled and he got to bang the teacher all the time.
Yeah, it's like that kid is lucky.
Hang on, wait
Something
a
got to touch
second.
his penis.
Hang on a second, because Nick's like, he was homeschooled and he got to bang the teacher all the time, and Greg was like, yeah, and then went on about what he was saying. No one else catch that? Because
I caught it.
totally
I caught
said
it, but I was
yes.
hoping he would catch it. But apparently he continued on. I was like, I pretty much just facepalmed myself.
Oh my
God
god!
damn it,
Like
Greg,
I
I
would,
can see West Virginia out my front door, but we happen to live in Ohio. Okay, it's not legitimate here. Okay, Jesus Christ.
I would just like to point out I got the pictures, and my god, I would rail them both in the mouth.
That kid was lucky because he got to have two really hot teachers. Like, I mean, because let's face it. Everybody who's been in high school has had at least one teacher who they thought to themselves, I would love to rail that.
Dude, just imagine this. Yeah, you're like finally in puberty. You're still underage. Yeah, you rail these two hot teachers, and you don't get in trouble.
What do you got to look forward to after that?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I mean,
you can use the experience as a way to boost your confidence because you think to yourself, well, I just made it with two older ladies, so I mean now I got like the confidence to pick up whoever whenever I go out to the bar or whatever. I mean that would definitely be a confidence booster.
I think it's gonna take them down a wrong path. That's what it's probably gonna do.
No, I'm just saying what I'm trying to get at is if you're 16 and at 16 already in your sexual endeavors you've had a threesome with two of your teachers, you go straight from that to 3 dicks and 1 chick's ass. Like there's no intermediate between there. How do you one up that? I mean, like I said, you go to 3 dicks and 1 asshole. That's the only way to go to the next level, and it's immediate.
I
feel
thought
like
it was
Sex is like
transition.
hard drugs, kids. Sex is so much like hard drugs.
I thought it was going to be the next logical step would be you get a girlfriend and then you have a threesome with the girlfriend and her mom.
No. You see, you get a girlfriend.
I like where your head's at, but no, that's not where we're going.
You get a girlfriend, you have her railed by 5 guys, and then you come to finish up later.
So not sloppy seconds, fucked up fifths.
Wouldn't it be fucked up sixth?
Yes.
Trying to think what
You're fucking one
slimy sixths.
Pretty much, you're fucking one big old nasty.
You don't need lubricant
cream
at
pie.
that point. All
Yeah,
that semen
'cause
in there is just doing it for you.
Like
nasty.
that is the absolute lubricant. You're not even fucking her at that point. You might as well just be fucking the inside of some dude's ball sack. It would be the equivalent, Greg, like if you got your skin zipper split open.
Thank you. Thank you so much for never letting that die.
And like let's say it happened to Nick. Sorry, Nick. Let's say it happened to Nick. He gets his skin zipper opened up, and it's a bad one, all the way up into his balls, and you're actually fucking his sack. That would be like the equivalent to what comes next after you've had a threesome with 2 of your teachers. Like the next thing you do is literally fucking a vagina filled with other people's cream pie. Like that's where the next that's the next step. I mean that 3 dicks and 1 ass. That's just where it goes after that point. You got nothing to look forward to.
If that's what the next step is, and I'd hate to know what Nick's first sexual encounter was to lead him down the path he's on.
I think we've already concluded what it was at such a
No,
young
I mean
age.
like when he lost his virginity, not like when his first porno experience.
If you'd like to hear about the time I lost my virginity, that is in an older episode of the podcast.
Yes. We did talk about that in an older episode. I have no idea what episode it's in, but one of the older ones, I would say probably 15 and under. Some episode, somewhere in episode
Just how I
one,
like 'em.
it's too fitting. Too fitting.
That's perfect.
Too fitting. Yes, but what I'm saying is like your normal kind of experiences, if you will, is like normally about the first thing you may get from a sexual partner, whether it's male or female. I'm not gonna single anyone out or anything. It's normally like manual stimulation or maybe oral stimulation, but normally it's like a manual stimulation to an oral stimulation and then to actual vaginal penetration to, if you get lucky or get something that glows in the dark, possibly anal penetration. That's normally like, that's the normal progression of how it goes.
I had sex with a mannequin once.
And sometimes it goes down that route, but sometimes the encounter is with something that you can inflate. But regardless, what I'm saying is that's the normal like progression that it kind of goes. And then maybe, like once you've accomplished those things, that's maybe to where you bring another person into the room, whether it's another male or another female or whatever. But if you're like getting all that at once, like I don't know what this kid's sexual activity was before the threesome, but what I'm saying is he's 16 and has already got that. Not everyone in this episode has had that experience, and I don't mean specifically with two teachers. I'm talking about a threesome, period.
I haven't
I think
had
only
any
25%
action.
of the chat has had a threesome.
25% of this conversation has, as Nick put it, and that's me. So you got to look at that point. We're in our mid-20s, and only one of the four of us has done that. And I mean, this kid's doing it at 16. That progression's kind of all fucked up as far as I'm concerned, and that's why I said that's where and then the next step after that's 3 dicks and an ass fucking a cream pie. 5 dudes, cream pie. That's what I feel like happens next.
Before we found out he was like bragging, I was like, what? Is he like so straight-laced? The teacher's like, yeah, we have to corrupt him, and then he goes home and his mom's cleaning his dick and is like, this doesn't smell like it normally does. It doesn't taste like it normally does.
Now, Greg, since you were saying that you were homeschooled and you had sex with the teacher, had you ever had that specific experience that Nick was just talking about, to where
I honestly did not hear that when Nick was.
I don't know how you answered
telling.
it.
I just kind of zoned out because I have because I don't know how, but I've developed like
repressed memories. This subject kind of brought him back up.
Someone fetch my devil mask.
Fucking Greg's gonna branch out and make his own podcast and fucking just it's gonna go, and he's gonna fucking hate us and he's gonna talk shit and then he's gonna go a few episodes. Now how about this? Since you've yet to cash in your V card, let's say this kid had yet to cash his in. Let's say right now 2 of your teachers that you've had in college or high school or whatever, if your first like legitimate sexual experience was with 2 teachers at the same time, where do you go from there?
Nowhere, I just hang myself.
Keeping it in the education system, talking about teachers, now that we've covered what we've covered, with the current education system is how it is now, would you enroll your future children into public or private schools, or would you homeschool them? Or just factoring in the possibility that if you have a son that he may have a threesome with 2 teachers from his school, does that factor into it for that matter?
I'll do what I felt was done to me and just like throw my child to the sharks and like, well, if he survives public education, good for him.
I'm going to say the same thing basically that Nick did. I will throw my children to the wolves of the public education system.
I have, in fact, been through all 3 systems, and I feel like if I had to pick, probably if I could homeschool my kids.
There's so many factors you can think of. A couple things I was thinking about, like, depends on where I get settled in. I would have to do research on the education system there, whether it be here in Washington, back in Florida, it doesn't matter where. I would have to think about how that system is there and like do some research on it. And yeah, it depends on, if I have a son or a daughter. If I have a son, I pretty much have to worry about him knocking up every single woman he touches. Or if I had a daughter, pretty much try not to get knocked up by every dude that touches her. Anyways, Nick.
So the way I just took that was he was okay with you touching his daughter as long as you don't knock her up. Like that was how that came off to me.
Well,
no, you're not touching her.
I accept the terms of the agreement, and don't worry, Dave Deerwood has already drawn up the paperwork, and you've already signed it, and it's done. It is done.
Don't worry, Dale. He's going to get there before the hair does.
So
no threat of
wrong, but it's funny as fuck at the same time.
Safest time to go at it, right there.
Dude, that's horrible. We're all going to hell.
This episode will be the last episode for a while. We are going to go on a hiatus so people can take care of some things in their personal life, and then we will try to continue to make episodes in the future. But on that note, I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank Nick for coming on again, and Dale, I want to thank you for coming on and being on this special episode. So that does it for another episode of 30 Minutes of Mayhem. I have been your host. My name is Michael Mayhew, and I have been here with my co-hosts.
Greg.
Nick.
And Dale.
Don't forget to check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Android, Stitcher, Spreaker, all of those locations, and donate to us on PayPal. That's it. That does it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. And later, fellas.